All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Heck, Goose, and Gabe. Transportation Talk. In this episode, the crew covers topics that range from cars, trucks, motorcycles, gas prices, auto shows, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Steven Furtick and Dale Earnhardt. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, gentlemen.
Yo. Brum, brum, brum.
Transportation Talk. All right, so this is his exhaust got to get replaced already.
Got a leak in it.
So this topic came up recently, actually about a week ago. We went to the Philadelphia Auto Show, and it triggered this topic. And what I found fascinating about going to the Philly Auto Show is, and you don't even have to go to the Philly Auto Show, you just go anywhere. And this has nothing to do with cars or transportation. This is with everything. People, you put in 10 people into a room and they're going to like 10 different things. It's amazing. That's what's fascinating to me. And that's what makes it so interesting and intriguing when you're at these things, because people have these vehicles or do modifications. It's not something that on specific models, not something I would do, but you can appreciate it for them. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how much work they put into these things.
Their efforts for it.
And like I said, you might not be crazy about everything, but there's definitely a point where you're just like, I respect, because everyone's taste is so different, right? And so you pull up to these places, and it's insane. Actually, it's indoor, and they have every car company basically has their own section, and then they kind of present to you that year's hottest car or whatever vehicle.
Like the upcoming models and all that stuff, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll have a prototype. It just depends on how lucky you are. I know in the past years they were just kind of doing the bare minimum, which is kind of what we got again this year. But previously they had the crazy prototype cars there, and more companies were there. So this year, like I said, we got the bare minimum. If you don't know by now, you guys, I'm sure you all know by now, but I'm a Jeep owner, so I told my wife, I was like, the main thing I want to go there for is for the Jeep.
See the new Jeeps.
Yeah, see the Jeeps, and not even because you know what you're gonna see. It's just more of just like being around it and
seeing extra modifications give you kind of an idea of what you may want or might not want to do.
And then the obviously a Corvette. And then everything else was just like whatever you guys want to do. I just wanted to hit those two things. And whatever else they wanted to do, or whatever, we could do whatever I wanted last. But anyway, it was amazing because people were literally physically running to specific cars that I wouldn't even walk slow backwards to. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what's amazing about this. I'm
winning the golden ticket for that Willy Wonka is you're running that fast.
It's like car. We have so much different, like there's so much different taste in the world that it actually makes it fun though. And I'm like smiling for them, like as they're running up to the car, because I know what that feeling's like. I ran up, I saw that it was an orange Corvette, and we were like walking up. Well, I wasn't running, I was speed walking. Up to it, trying to be all professional. It's all like gated off or whatever. But man, you see these things in and I've seen a couple in quote real life. Someone passed by me on a highway. But man, I'll tell you what, there's nothing like standing actually in front of one and just having the ability to just scope it out.
Because you can get inside and everything too, right? So
not the Corvette. So and I think there's several cars depending on their, I guess,
I think
ranking.
the high end cars, they don't you can't jump in there. They're like roped off, but you get close enough.
And like I said, we've been to like Cars and Coffee. We've been to several other events where I've seen the Corvette. So it's 2020 and above is what I like, and newer. So I love and have appreciation for all Corvettes, but the one that like truly speaks to me is this version, and it truly to me looks like an actual supercar. Anyway. like I said, it was so funny. Like there's like literally, I'm not kidding you, vans, and there's just women running, or guys, whatever, running to it. And like we're so pumped, and I was like, you gotta be happy for them. It was dope. Like they got to see their car. Like I got to, and they're looking at me like knucklehead, you wasting money. That car's corny, But
looking at it,
that was what was dope about it.
Yeah, no, and you could tell that people were looking for their next car for like a purpose. Maybe their family's growing, they got more kids, so they need like a Tahoe with the third row, or like you said, a van, as opposed to what they had before, like a little Honda CR-V or something. So you could see that people were like observing their next move on a purchase of a car, and that's like really what the purpose of like those auto shows with the newer cars are. That's what they're really for, like, because
you get a preview of what's actually
there's cars that I liked and I appreciate on the road. I would never myself look at them, but I was able to go jump in them and see the insides of it, and
actually appreciate them.
And appreciate them even more now. I'm like, yo, that is like a nice car. Or this the Bronco Sport. I like the look of it. Right when I went inside of it, I was like, wow, this is not what I thought. Yes. Yeah, I was that was like one of the few cars I was like disappointed on.
Yeah.
But then if I've never gone to the show, you get a chance to jump in and feel in it was. That's what it is, though. That's what those car shows are for.
Touch, feel, smell.
Yeah.
When you see commercials, if you've really noticed, you don't really get to see the car. They show glimpse and they flash to something else, some other scenery. That's just to get you. That's just to draw you into the dealership.
Right, leave the suspense there. And you don't know what it really looks like.
The cool part about it was you didn't have the. I don't know, the salesperson that was, there was people giving you information, but they're not trying to sell you anything because there's nothing to sell there.
Yeah. Right.
So it was kind of hang loose. It was I like that better.
You can get the pamphlets and stuff like that too that kind of give you overall.
Yeah. And then you went to them for additional.
Right. You take a look for yourself, and it's not like they're like, oh, here, come here, check this out. Oh, check this out, dragging you along. Here, you're looking at it and visualizing everything yourself and taking a whole glimpse in by yourself, which is to me, I think it's better than actually dealing with the salesman.
Sure,
because salesmen, they just can be obnoxious sometimes with trying to push the sale,
win you over.
Yeah, they want to win the sale, and it's like.
But no, like what Jim was saying, sometimes we see these commercials on TV, right? And it's like a car. Well, the car is small, so they got this guy and this girl, they're 5 foot, and they fit comfortable in it, whatever. Sure. And I'm just shy of 6 foot. I jumped in this thing, and I'm like, holy smokes! Long legs, I don't fit, and it's a car that I liked.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't fit my and it's
your
so
and
it's
kind of
so
took that visual away.
So, you see stuff on TV, and it's glorified, and they have models that actually fit, human models that fit these cars perfect to the T and make it look amazing.
They make it perfect for
to sell.
Yes, and then that actual commercial looks perfect, and then you go there and you're like, my Ophi behind does not fit in this thing. What in the world is going on?
There is the trade-off though, because what they bring there is the best versions of what they have. So I remember years ago checking out the Jeep stuff or whatever, and you're there and you're sitting man, look at these nice leather seats and everything, all these gadgets and all this other jazz. And you go to the car dealership, and I went to actually go buy one, and you're just like, oh my gosh, no wonder the one they're showing me was $70,000.
Exactly.
No one and then you end up pulling out with a little twee version of the thing. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy a T-shirt today.
I'll come back.
Think about prices are outrageous. So one of the cars that to me surprisingly stole the show, and this is gonna sound crazy, but was the Jeep Wagoneer. This is it has third row, but it is it's an SUV, it's luxury, but then it has this off-road-ish feel to it. Dude, this thing's well over $100,000. Wow. And it's a family vehicle. And I don't know, somebody might be listening to this and saying that's not bad, but for me, I was beside myself. I'm like, holy smokes. Meanwhile, because the Corvette, what I want is in that range. Yeah. So to think that I can get an SUV or a Corvette, you're obviously, if you have a family and you have to make your priorities. But if they're both a luxury choice, I mean that's.
Yeah. So the Wagoneer, to go off the Wagoneer is back in the 70s is today's Grand Cherokees. because they didn't have Grand Cherokees. Remember, Grand Cherokees came out in the 90s. So the Wagoneers was the family version of the SUVs to take the families out, and they weren't 4-door. They were still 2-door. And then they came out with the 4-door, but it was a big family luxury vehicle that they went out on.
Bro, this was like a 20-door.
These things are huge.
This joint
They're
was
massive.
huge.
Yeah,
It was like a school bus.
what, 8 people in it, right? I think.
8 grown people.
Like,
Oh, wow.
spacious.
Yeah, I think it's 3
And
in
it
the
has
first, second
trunk
row.
space.
This thing
Yeah,
is huge.
third row's 3
You have
people.
the third row with trunk space.
Like, the only-
I'm not exaggerating.
The only thing I can think of is the Escalade, the XL, and like
The
the
ESV.
is the longest one.
ESV is a long Escalade.
So whatever that is, whatever version it is, this thing still I feel like it's bigger than it.
And not only that, the look of it.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah, the
go
look of it.
to the other ones, and we're looking to its equivalent in size. The back windows are goofy because it's just so big.
Right.
But on this, they made it look right. Like it's
well proportioned.
It's proportioned. Yeah. It's
Suited
big, but
right.
it's proportioned. Just like me.
Perfect.
But anyway, so what's your favorite part about car shows in general? It doesn't have to be necessarily the Philadelphia Auto Show, but cars in general. Car shows.
Just being around the cars and if you're not into cars, you're not going to enjoy the show. Regardless if you're going to a car show where there's actual races or you're going to the Philadelphia Auto Show or whatever it is. If you're not a car enthusiast, and you don't have to be a crazy enthusiast, you could like cars and go to it. But if you don't have that thing for it, you're not going to have fun. I mean, to me, I can just go and look at cars all day long up and down. Like just people, like you said earlier in the show, the customization goes so far and beyond. And it's like, wow, this person did that. And, oh, I don't really like what this person did. It's just the scenery, the ambiance being out there, and it's a hot summer day, and you're just hanging out like with friends and family and stuff. To me, that's what I just look forward to when I go to car shows.
Well, for us, we grew up on that. Like our dad, uncles, they restored and rebuilt cars. So like we watched them in the garage, like wrenching away. So when you go to a car show, you see another car that's similar to us, you appreciate that person that restored it or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an appreciation. Not, I mean, obviously they're beautiful cars and whatever, but for us, it's like
we know what they did.
We grew up behind the scenes of it too. So like that's why like when I go to a car show, like it's like I'm looking at every like detail and like modification, and we're talking about like. I'm talking about like muscle cars. That's what we grew up on, like the 60s, 70s, like muscle cars, and like to see like the modifications where my dad had a '69 Chevelle, right, and it came with a bench seat in the front, and then he converted bucket seats with the shifter on the ground. Like most people don't know that, but like that was like a limited edition. And then when I go to a car show and I see that already done, that someone did it,
it's appreciated.
So I walk up to that person and start holding up a whole conversation, like and it's. So it's obviously our appreciation is because we grew up on like in car show or going to car shows, seeing, like I said, in the garages, seeing the behind the scenes stuff. So it's like, and then as you get older, then you start getting to like today's age of stuff and like that whole era of like the import, that whole scene came, and that's when we jumped in. That was like my era of cars. So it's just like. I go to a car show, I appreciate what people do to a car. Like, obviously, there's some people that go obnoxious and go beyond. They bedazzle some stuff, which is annoying. But, dude, there is, like, I appreciate every little detail. Even though it's not my taste, I still appreciate what people do to cars.
Yeah, so it's both. To me, it's appreciation. So you appreciate what people do, and also motivation. And you get inspired about, maybe there's a particular vehicle that you always wanted, or you have that vehicle already and they've modified it or outfitted it to a particular manner, the way that you want. And that happened again to me this past weekend it was like a Jeep, and they outfitted a Wrangler it was like an overland version modification, and you're just looking at it and your kid looks at it, he's like, oh, that's cool, there's a tent on the top of the thing. But I haven't even scratched the surface of things that I'm doing, and I know, like, well, first of all, in the back of your mind, like, around about how much that cost this guy. And it wasn't just that, he had a million other things going on. And you're just like, there's like $100,000 on this Jeep right now. And as an adult, obviously, you'd appreciate that. But again, that's where you get inspired by these things. I don't know if I necessarily want to do all that, but I'm inspired to do more, and that's what makes it exciting. It makes it fun.
You make it yours. You dress it up how you want it, and you go based off of like what other people do, and you're like, all right, well, I like what he did, and I like what he did, so let's see how I can make this get together. So today I saw a Jeep exactly like yours, had the roof rack on it, but then on the passenger side of the rear tire, there's a ladder going up on the fender to the top of the roof, and I was like, "Yo!" And it was identical to your car. It just wasn't the Willys version. Yeah, it was just but it was your color. Same thing, hard top, but he had the big, massive roof rack on there with the stairs going up. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely for Jim right there. He's definitely got to get that set up because it looked dope.
Yeah, and it's funny. We pass by. Now we pass by. Like you get your spouse like in these conversations. Well, I do anyway. And I'm like, what do you think about this? She's like, and then she's texting me. She's like, hey, I just saw one that has X, Y, and Z. It kind of looks cool. I like that. But anyway, so the transition is, as Goose mentioned earlier, we grew up in the car shows and I remember just walking around basically with my dad, and like I said, it was more of the muscle car era, and which I still obviously have an appreciation for. And in fact, one of my dream cars still is to get what my dad had, a '69 Chevelle, and but anyway, so that kind of just exposed us to actually just appreciating art, right? And it was just our version of art. Some people might like specifically a painting on the wall. We had an appreciation for that beautiful chrome bumper. You know what I mean? It was just like it's amazing.
So it also takes us back to when we used to go to car shows. Goose and I, we were younger. We was like 15, 16 years old. We didn't have a car, but we ended up doing our own lowrider bikes, where we lowered them, we painted them, we customized them how we wanted them. Schwinns. Goose went to there were Schwinns. They're like official Schwinns. Mine was a '68 Schwinn.
Mine was a '69 Stingray.
'69 Stingray.
'67.
Yeah, yours is the orange crate, right? Yeah, mine was a Typhoon, a 24-inch Typhoon. So mine was like definitely different from that. It was a bigger size frame, but
it made it chopper.
Yeah. But I mean, we had our own vision of what we wanted to do with our bikes. So it started even from there. Like we couldn't have cars because we were young of age. No. So we went with bikes and customized bikes and did the wheels and did the Goose went all out and got all his stuff fabricated. Like his whole he got his whole bondoed in with the fence. Like
it was welded. I had like pieces welded on just to like close up some certain corners to give it like a, I don't know, just complete modification. I made it the way it had a gas tank and it didn't have one. Like it was just it was like super dope. But we made them into choppers. We rode them around, but they really weren't meant. They were really meant for show purposes. But we still just like, as kids, we're like spending every little penny on trying to get these bikes. We're like, we gotta ride them. We gotta show them off. Sure. They're not just sitting around.
My bike was so low and so stretched out that I would pedal, and if I turned, my pedals are scraped. And to me, I thought that was cool that my pedals are scraped. Everyone else's, their pedals are up higher. Mine are like that low too. and actually, that's how I used that. That was my kickstand, was a pedal. Yeah, because it was so low to the ground that I couldn't do nothing else but use the pedal.
And actually we started decorating blocks.
Yes,
2x4 blocks. Started decorating them because that was, you only had that much clearance, about 2 inches, inch and a half, not much. Enough literally for the sprocket to go in a full cycle.
But with my bike, it was like, what was sentimental for me is that my grandmother gave it to me. She had it in her shed, just sitting in the shed for like years. And I'm like, yo, could I have this? She's like, you want it? What do you want this for? I was like, I actually at that time I didn't have no plans of like modifying it like the way I did. I just wanted it, and like because it was old, original 1969, like it was unique. And then she just gave it to me, and then little by little I just started doing research. Like this is before like internet stuff too.
Sure.
Like so I just started doing my own research.
Going off
magazines.
We used to search. Yeah, we used to buy magazines, and it would be like on the lowrider magazine.
We go to Borders and what's it, Barnes and Noble?
Yeah.
Borders. That's how way back.
We ordered out of these catalogs. That's where.
Yeah. So we're going bike shop to bike shop in the tri-state area, all the way up and down. We hit every bike shop known to man in these 3 states, man. I mean, it legitimately ran through them because it wasn't a very common thing. At one point, it became a fad, but even when it was a quote fad, we were looking for specific parts. That was the difference. There was people who you can get the brand Lowrider.
Yeah.
We were looking to replace like the replica, so you're restoring the original. So you had to throw in some quote lowrider aftermarket things to get a particular look, but the goal was to keep it as original as possible. So you're still looking for original Schwinn parts, which is not technically easy. You can find them, but they're going to be all beat up because they're so old, right? They're 50, 60, 70 years old.
So in that style of like lowrider bikes, that's a West Coast thing. We're on the East Coast, so we're like going against the grain with like. So we really like if we probably were living in California, you probably find them anywhere. But out here where we were for that time period, we couldn't find anything.
Yeah, we're in the late 90s.
Yeah.
All right. So as a kid, was there a car that you always admired?
I always liked the Datsun 280s. Yeah, there's just something about wagons that I've always had this fascination with. Don't know why. I just think a wagon is something different than but it's a rare vehicle that people drive around in and make it their own.
Yeah. Goose, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I just feel like every stage of my life there was always like, I want this. Or your mind changes so much. But it was always, for me, obviously, like, typical generic, like, Lamborghini, Ferrari. Like, kids, as a kid, you get this, I had a big, huge, like, 4-foot poster. It was a red Ferrari. It was like I think it was like the F480 or something like that, or F450.
Yeah.
Old school, classic, like, if I look at it now, I'm like, dang, that thing was ugly. But, like, but it was
weird,
still,
boxy.
Yeah, it was still, like, if ever become a billionaire, those are cars in the collection. You know what I mean? When you're a kid, you're like, dude, that's what I want in my collection, even if you don't drive. But it was always, for me, so I should say sports cars. I was always into like the Corvettes, a sport car, like kind of like, even now I drive like a coupe, like a 2-door sports car. It's not practical, but it's just, I just like that. Yeah, that's just style. Me. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, it's always like a 2-door sports car was always my thing.
I think for me, it was the 69 Chevelle. I mean, talk about when you admire something. I saw the behind the scenes of what my dad, stacked up money to get, and would always just talk about it. And he'd buy like every little toy model that ever existed, that every Matchbox and whatever came out with. And so you just grew. Well, I did anyway. Grew to have that appreciation. And one classic story I'll never forget. I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, and my mom had to take her car, or my mom's car was in the shop. I don't know what was getting inspected. I have no idea. Well, she still had to go to work and still had to pick me up. Forget, for whatever reason, my dad dropped me off in the morning, and then my mom's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pick you up." And in kindergarten, we had half days. Yeah. So it was like noon, 12:30. And I walk out of the building, and I remember seeing the green 69 Chevelle parked right outside. My mom's driving it, and all you hear is like, blah, 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 blah. It's just sitting. I felt like the coolest kid
That's awesome.
ever. And I remember running back with my big old book bag and just ran to it. And I remember her having to get out because the doors are so big and heavy, I couldn't fully close it. So she came out and like slammed it, and then went back in, and we just like took off. Oh my gosh, it was so awesome.
That's awesome.
But anyway, so yeah, just admiring, because I think it just got it from like my dad, like because he admired it. Like if the car existed, I don't know if I've ever picked it out. It was just because it was pointed out so much.
Sure. Right.
And like you grew to appreciate it because it was highlighted on so many different levels.
And he's had multiple.
And he had a bunch of them, right?
3 or 4 of them in his time.
Yeah. But anyway, so all right, so then we're gonna go around the horn. Or what was your first car?
My first car was again, here we go with the hatchback, 1988 Volkswagen Golf 4-door, 1.8. It was maroon, faded paint that I put baby oil on it to make it look shiny because it was faded. The bumpers were black, or they were gray, like ashy.
Gray.
like ashy knees,
like Mikey's knees.
Yeah, ashy knees, and I put baby oil once again on them to give them that life. But yeah, I drove that for 6 to 8 months. I drove that car around.
Yeah,
it was for high school. I just going around, but it was a car. It was only. Let me see. I got it in 97. I got it in 98. I'm sorry. I got it in 98. Yeah, it was 10 years old when I got it. So you think about that now. Like, think about you buy a 10-year-old car. Still looks decent.
Yeah.
When I bought that car looked dated. I was like, what in the world?
There is something about older cars, man. They did not age well.
98 to 88, that was a big difference. And still, like, having a Volkswagen, like, at that time was still like a thing. Like, you got a Jetta. You're that dude. You had a Jetta. Like, but I had the Golf version of that. I had the hatchback version of a Jetta. That's what a Golf is. But yep, that was my first car. Goose?
No, so going back, my first car that I purchased, I was 15 years old, and I bought a 81 Volkswagen Rabbit.
Yes, that was the stuff, man. Silver
with the blue interior.
The blue interior. Now you look at it, like I look back, dude, that's like a luxury now. You get colored interior, like red or blue. Right? Dude, back then it was blue, and it was like it was dope.
And it was velvet is all. Everything was velvet.
So I had that. I was like 15 years old. I remember just having like. I worked in a couple jobs, whatever, and just remember one of our neighbors, like the next block over, he had it for sale. I think it was like, he was selling for like $600. And I just remember like telling my dad, I'm like, Dad, check out that car. He's like, oh yeah, it's nice. I'm like, I want to buy it. He's like, for what? I'm like, well, I'm probably in 6 months from then, I was turning 16 or something like that. I'm like, I'm going to be 16. This car needs some work. Like, let's buy it and we'll fix it up. He's like, you got the money? I'm like, well, can we talk him down? So I think we got it down to like $500 or whatever. So I had the $500, purchased a car, pulled this thing up in the driveway. No lie, I probably sat in this thing for like a week. Just sat inside of it. It sat in the driveway. Obviously, it wasn't like registered or anything. And then I fixed up the issues that didn't need it. It was leaking oil or whatever. Me and my dad fixed it, and I sold it. And then when I actually turned 16 to drive, I had an 81 Toyota Corolla 1.8. Straight up Puerto Rican car. If everyone knows, a Toyota Corolla 1.8, 1980, 81, 82, typical Puerto Rican car. And it was a fun car. It was the same thing, 2-door, little guy. And that's where I drove to school. I got legally. I had my license and everything was legit on it. And I drove to school in it. But yeah, and that was like actually one of my favorite cars. Like, again, that would be another car I would rebuy and have in my collection.
Same with me. I think I would buy an 88 Volkswagen. It had to be 4-door, and I would do the same thing and restore it. I definitely would do that. Just to keep it, because that was my first car that I bought for $500.
That's crazy. What about you, Gabe?
Well, my first car was a 93 Ford Escort.
Nice. 93 Ford Escort.
I mean, it was functional.
What color was it?
It was a red.
Pink?
Oh yeah, hot pink.
No, it was like the same color as your Volkswagen.
It was like a metallic red or something.
They had that deep red and blue. Those Escorts.
I mean, it wasn't anything like, it was kind of almost like a hand-me-down car. Like we all drove or whatever at some point. But I mean, I had it for 5 years, so it did what it needs to do.
Dang.
Oh my gosh, mine was a 2001 Acura TL. Goose went with me. Man,
but hold on. So you were like more like a late bloomer with driving, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you word it that way,
Well, not driving, saying getting your license because it was like you were in college.
Yes, exactly. So I had, my whole approach was totally different. Yeah, I didn't care to get a car right off the bat.
Meanwhile, we were 13 driving the alleyway.
No. Yeah. I was 8 years old driving. Yeah. Believe me, I did that. I just didn't own my own. I was saving my money for school, so I had a totally different approach. That was all. That was all it was. But
and me too. Like I lived in the city, so like I stepped in everywhere. So it's like,
and then I went to school in the city.
Yeah.
So obviously that's how me and Gabe met in Philadelphia. So, but anyway, so I didn't need necessarily a car. So I was like, two things. I went to save my money to go to college, and then go to a city school where I didn't necessarily need the car. So that's literally what it was. And I graduated and bought a car.
Yeah.
But and so obviously it's going to be a nicer car because you have a job, and a full-time job at that. These guys, they got their stuff on like scrap part-time jobs, 5 hours a week. Like they really scrapped up to make it happen too. It was pretty impressive. But anyways, like I said, two totally different, approaches or whatever. But it's funny. Each one has a funny story behind it. Goose went with me. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Like, 10 grand. I don't even remember. But it was like that. It was like something like not even crazy. And I remember thinking like, man, I just made the biggest purchase of my life. And it was the biggest purchase of my life.
It was dope. It was dope.
It was awesome.
Oh, it was beautiful. I was like, for his first car, I'm like, holy smokes. It blew up. So his first car was what my buddies were getting like at that same time too. Like, So I'm like, this dude stepped it up a notch. And little Jimmy showed off in front of all my friends.
That was not my goal, but so I mean, the black leather. I mean, the thing was beautiful. Anyway, but that was the goal. Like that was, you stick to what you had. Anyway, to go to the original point though, is when you go to these car shows or you go to when we were originally saying, everyone has like their own taste. Everyone has like. It's funny even just hearing, even necessarily if that wasn't quote your dream car, you still just did what you had to do enough and get something that you kind of liked and afford, basically, is what it really was. Sure. But and then even on top of that, everyone's approach and how you got it was totally different. But anyway, so I'm just fascinated about everyone's first car story, like how, when, and what. How did you end up getting there?
I found mine in the newspaper. Hold on, so I forgot.
Wow.
So I was in school. I was in the library, and I was on study hall, and I was reading the Courier. And there was back in 1998, there was a section where it was the auto sales. And I would just look at it all the time to see what kind of cars were for sale. And sure enough, that's where it was. It was a 1988 Volkswagen Golf. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, the 638 number, if I'm not mistaken, that's the prefix for Bensalem area code, or a Bensalem area for a phone number. So I knew the car was local. So I had my dad call. My dad was like, no, you want this car? You call the guy. So I literally called this guy up, and he goes, yeah, it's been on the market for a week or two. I had a couple buyers, but the timing belt went on it. So here the guy wanted $1,000 for the car, and I was going to offer him like $800. So the timing belt had gone, and I was like, okay, so what does that mean? I said, Pop, timing belt is gone. Went on it. What does that mean? He's like, well, that's a lot of work. He's like, it probably needs to be work. He's like, how much is this guy going to sell it to you for? He sold it to me for $500. It cost me $400. Now, mind you, I had the $1,000 for it to buy it. So it literally cost me $1,000. It was $500 to buy it. I had to get it towed to a mechanic shop in Bensalem. And it cost me another $480 or $490 for them to do a timing belt and do the whole process in order for me to get this car driving. So I bought it, and it sat in the garage for at least 2 to 3 weeks before I actually got to drive it home. And I didn't even drive it home because I was scared to drive it home because it was stick shift. So I had my dad drive it home, and then I learned how to drive it. And then I learned how to drive it locally in town. I mean, I had the gist of it, but I wasn't too confident driving on a highway with it. Like I had to take basically the Bristol Pike 13, like the Bristol lanes. Take 13 all the way down home to come back this way. Straightaway. It's a straightaway, but it was
your first car was manual too.
Yeah, it was stick shift.
So was mine.
His Rabbit was
my Rabbit was stick shift. Push down for the reverse, push down and forward.
So all the efforts that we gone through, and nowadays you go through the internet and just find what you want. You actually see the picture, you have an idea of what it looks like. This, I had no idea that it was maroon. I had no idea it was faded.
It's a black and white picture.
And to finish it off, the other day I was talking to Bill Ayers, and he goes, heck, remember your Volkswagen Golf? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you remember all the dog hair you had on the back lid? Because when they sold it to me, they had to guess a cat that like to roam in the back of the car, and there was cat hair all over the whole back of it.
Funny.
Dude, I had to sit there with duct tape and freaking pull all that hair out of it. It was gross. Yeah.
Well,
that's what you did when you were 16, 17 years old. You wanted a car.
Over 20 plus years ago. And now, like,
you had to shave your car.
Yeah.
So today, now you can't even buy it like a used car. It's like overpriced.
Yeah.
Today's market
it's like
is
the opposite
insane.
market. Yeah.
Like you could, we were saying, we bought cars for under $1,000, and we were like,
yeah.
And we made it work. And back then, the cars we worked on ourselves. Like you can dig in there, do the oil change. You could see everything. Now everything's like so plastic, and they make you go to a dealership, and so like a used car.
I bought the car for $500, and the car had it was like 120,000 miles on it. 120,000 miles on it. $500.
Yeah.
What? I just sold I just traded my Dodge Durango for $4,800 that had 135,000 miles on it. They gave me $4,800 for it. So I mean, and that was in 2011. So that's a 10-year difference.
Sure.
So that's the increase of things, the value of things is just insane.
Yeah, 100%.
Insane.
So to change things up or switch things up, what is everyone's thoughts on motorcycles? Did you ever have one? Would you ever get one?
I've always wanted one. I knew I was one of those ding-dongs that really didn't have it together because I know I like to go fast and I'll be just an idiot on it. So growing up, we had mini bikes. We had a mini bike. The one day my dad takes me after church, takes me to behind the church to go ride this mini bike, and I'm obsessed with it. I like going fast. I like the adrenaline coming out of it, and I'm just hauling, riding. This thing's going fast. And now mind you, it didn't have a handbrake; it had a foot brake. So if you're familiar with the quads or other stuff, they have a foot brake. So the foot brake wasn't stopping on time because the tire head got wet. So I'm slamming on the brake, and I slid. The mini bike went underneath a parked car, and I just slid in the mud. And I'm walking, and I pull it out, and I'm walking it to my dad, and he's like, "What happened to you?" I was covered in mud, and the handlebar was sideways, all crooked. He was like, "What in the?" I was like, "I fell off it." He said, "What do you mean you fell off it? Why are you covered in mud?" I was like, "Well, I was going fast, and I couldn't slow down, so I slid right underneath and." The bike went under the car. He was like, oh, okay. So from that point on, I would not. I've ridden them afterwards, but I know for a fact that I would not hop and get an actual motorcycle for myself because of the speed and
you can't trust yourself.
I can't trust myself. I'll be scared that I'm going to lose control. Yeah. So right there, that's mine.
So for me, it was we grew up riding mini bikes, like quads and stuff like that. So that whole era in the 2000s where like. It was imports. It was all imports, and it was like, so you had like the Honda Civics, Honda Accords, like Integras, and then that same era was like everyone was starting to buy motorcycles. So it was like the Gixxers, the 600s, the 750s, the 1000s. So like people were hooking up their cars and then buying motorcycles. Dude, I remember going down to I think it was like Philadelphia Cycle Center, and going down there, and it was a 2000. Gixxer. It was a 600. My first bike. I've ridden like my buddy's bikes, but I never like really ridden it along. Like I've ridden them around the block, kind of up and down the street from the barbershop, but I've never really. So I'm like, I got approved for one. I got everything. I'm like, told the guy, I was like, and I went with a couple of my buddies, and they were buying them too. So we went there, and there was like this salesperson was like in heaven because he was making all kinds.
3 bikes deal.
Yeah. So. I'm like, you know what, let me hold off. Let me just make sure I want to put more money down. In my mind, I'm like, let me put more money down so my payments are a little bit lower or whatever. And your payments then were like $50 a month. Like, it wasn't nothing. It really wasn't, dude. So I'm like, it was just a sign. I'm like, dude, so everyone else got motorcycles. I never made a purchase. I never committed to one. And I just think those bikes weren't made for me. I'm more of like, same thing. We like to test speeds. Like, my cars, it's just like, I don't know, push things to the limit. But right now, like being 42 years old, I would definitely get like a bagger, like a Harley Davidson, like cruiser, just like something that's loud, but pretty much not really going nowhere, just cruising.
All noise.
Yeah, and even with that, I'm not even in a hurry. If I do get one, I get one. If I don't, I don't. But I do have a little scooter. I do have a little moped.
Yeah, he does.
A little 50cc, just scoot around town from the barbershop to the house.
There you go. Hey, it works.
But yeah, like as far as
I think it's all of us. I mean, there's an adrenaline bug in us all, and I say us, I mean the Velez boys. I've got an accident in a dirt bike, going too fast, not paying attention, being a knucklehead. So it was kind of the same thing, but also. Good thing it happened to me, nothing crazy. I mean, I shattered my wrist, but nothing crazy, where it took my life or anything, but it humbled the living breaks out of me. And I'm just like, I don't know about all that.
Take a speed for granted.
Sure.
But same thing. I would love to just get a hog, man. I want a Harley. I just want a big boy Harley, but the same thing. And actually, I don't even need a big boy. I just want to cruise. It could be their smallest version. I just want to cruise. I'm a bigger guy, but I just want to get on one and just take my time, just not hear anything, no radio. I don't need none of that. No. I just me in the road, man, and then that's all. I just that peace. And I would wear a helmet. I would, obviously
absolutely.
be safe in it. And there's the danger with everything, man. You could do everything perfect in the book, and then someone else hits you. It's like you need to do it.
Well, him saying wearing a helmet in the state of Pennsylvania, it's optional. You don't have to wear a helmet. But you go to Jersey, it's mandatory. So
So our motorcycle junkiness came from our father also, because he had a motorcycle, and he we seen him with what was it, a Honda?
Yeah, it
was a Honda, maybe like 400 or something like that, because in the 80s it wasn't nothing crazy like that. Yeah. It's definitely a Honda like 400 or something like that. But he also fell off the bike. He wiped out. So it's definitely something that we all have. So we kind of learned from that and
shared experience.
Share the experience.
But it's crazy though, because like even after all that, like we still had dirt bikes. Like I said, to go back to ATV, quads, dirt bikes, whatever. We had all this crazy fun stuff,
Go-karts.
Which I'm shocked. Yeah, like thinking about it now, like my mom, who's but anyway, so
she grew up on it. So like her brothers and her dad had this stuff. So it really wasn't.
We had like this little alley here in Bristol that we just go up and down, and then my dad would take us to like these little areas where you can do all this stuff. But so it's always sits there. I don't think it goes away. It's just dormant.
It's there.
Sure. Like, and it's like soon as, cause you got the quad, right? Not the tricycle.
No, I got the quad. I got the
you got the
90.
quad, cause he got it's a little tiny thing, but it'll go.
It's enough.
And I'm on it, and I felt. It came back like it was nothing, dude. I'm like already pushing it to the limit, like, and it's just
Savage.
like it's been 20 years nearly in between there, 15 years, and it was like it came back like, dude, like it never left. It's just in you. Like I don't know how else to explain that.
So it's crazy too, because so the one year my youngest daughter, my baby girl Danica, D-Bay, she asked us for a quad for her birthday. And I'm like, Jess, we're not getting this kid a quad. And she's like, well, you have one. So I was like, all right. So then her and I started looking into them, and we got her a quad. It was the Razor, which is a 24-volt quad, so it's electric.
Yeah.
And boy, does this thing have power. Like, I can get on it.
Surprisingly has power.
I'm 185 pounds, and I get on it, and this thing rides in my yard, going around in it, like holds my weight, and
you can go around your section in it.
Yeah, and we can go around the section. Like, so my girls, they get on it and they just ride. I'll go for a walk and they're riding the quad in front of me. And then Phoenix has his quad. He has like this little 6-volt quad that he rides in the house and stuff like that. So it's something that I guess they naturally have when they see it. Like Danica, God's honest truth, Danica goes, Dad, can we ride the tractor today? I'm like, tractor? She goes, no, I mean the quad, the big yellow one. And I was like, yeah, when the weather breaks, we can. I guess she saw it because Lainey pulled out softball equipment and she saw the quad back there. She asked it to ride it. I was like, yeah, when the weather starts breaking, we can take it out. So they all have like that adrenaline to ride.
Yeah, man.
Hereditary at this point.
Yeah. They want it. The boys want one. We got like a little dirt bike. We got the little it's what he's talking about, the little tractors, and these are actual tractors.
That tractor is no joke.
And it goes pretty fast. And every day, Cade will ask, "Can we get on a tractor? Can you get a tractor? You want to go?" And he's like, it's crazy because I thought like James is really good on it as a little bugger. Like Cade was 2-3 years old, already doing what James was doing. Well, now James, in all fairness, James didn't get it till he was 4.
Yeah.
So Cade got it. Just watched his older brother do it this whole time. You know what I'm saying? So then he's just like, well, that's easy enough. He's 2 years old and just ripping around in this thing. You're just like, this is crazy. But yeah, anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm saying it's definitely something in, because Ava, she rips around quads like nothing. So we went up the mountains And Lauren's never ridden a quad. I think she probably been on one time. So I'm like on one quad, and then I'm like, Lauren, just jump on another one or jump on with me. Ava was like, come on, Lauren. So Ava's driving, and Lauren's holding on for dear life in the back. You know? So like she's just like same thing. That adrenaline is like in her, like in our like in our genes. Yeah. So she'll rip around on a quad. She'll drive her grandfather's truck on the farm, full like big old Dodge truck, Dodge Ram. She'll drive it on the farm, like 12 years old. It's just like it's a thing. But here's the thing, though. Like she's driving it right. It's not like she's reckless, pushing the pedal to the metal and just bouncing all over the place, and she's doing it right, and she's taught right. So it's like you kind of do trust them. So you gotta they're gonna learn like little by little. They're gonna bump into things here and there, but that's how they learn. So when she turns 16, which is next year, I 100% trust her with my car. Yeah. You know, so it's that's another thing. Like us growing up, our parents, like my dad. And then we always say like our mom, but I think my mom was raised with boys, like her two brothers and her father. They were just always wrenching in the backyard and stuff. She just trusts. She's like, I got boys. Like that's what they do. Yeah. Like they just jump in a car and just drive up and down the alleyway. Like so she was probably petrified and going bananas in the house, but like she's like that's how they learn. Sure. You know. So I mean, if everyone knows our mom, like that's like, but she's very like a warrior. But so it's just in us, like cars, off-road vehicles, anything. Like we build our own like go-karts and stuff. Just wrenching. But I think today things are different. It's not the same like that, like it was when we were growing up.
No, I mean, and then it also like the neighborhood. We actually, like you grew up in, you got to know, the neighbors where we grew up everything was much closer, and so you have these conversations. Oh, we're gonna do this, and then all of a sudden your neighbor has a Harley, right? Yeah. And then the neighbor next to you his kids have go-karts. So everyone was doing it at that time. Like I don't know how else to really explain it, but like it was a little baby lifestyle that we had. We ripped around in our BMXs like during the day while we weren't necessarily 100% supervised, and then when our parents came home, we were allowed to rip around in like the go-karts and the
mini bikes.
And the mini bikes. My dad just be standing there in the alley, and we're just like ripping up and down.
Yeah, no, we didn't grow up with much, and that was like one thing that we definitely always had.
That was a treat.
Yeah, it was definitely absolutely. And it was shout out to Uncle Dave. He's like the motorhead in our family. And he's the one who kind of got us started into like, oh, here's your first go-kart. Got us it. Oh, okay. And then we would just add our own like things to it. Same thing with the mini bike. He got us a mini bike. It was falling apart, rusty, but the motor worked. So we painted it. We got new grips and stuff on. Like the motor he had going, the functionality was like on us. It was he's the one who kind of got us, gave us that push start on those like off-road fun like stuff as kids.
Speaking of gas prices,
I wish we still had those go-karts right now.
So what do you remember? What was the cheapest you paid? So obviously the effects of gas prices are obviously affecting everybody, right? Sure. It's not fun necessarily, and I do remember having to get premium for my Acura TL, and I was paying for something back when I bought that car. So I remember then thinking like, dude, owning a car is so expensive. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy. I'm glad I have a full-time job because basically I'm working for this car. But obviously gas prices are through the roof. Who knows if there's an end in sight. We always pray that it drops back to, lower prices. But anyway, what was the lowest you remember paying?
For you.
Me,
per gallon.
Per gallon, it was, if I'm not mistaken, I remember $5 would give me close to 3/4 of a gallon in my Volkswagen Golf. $5.
3/4 of a tank.
3/4 of a tank. I'm sorry. 3/4 of a tank. I'm sorry. So it was like 79, either 79 or 89 cents, something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say the cheapest that I remember was like 89, like 87, 89 cents. Okay. And I want to say in 1996.
The cheapest.
1996.
Cheapest I paid for.
It was like 89 cents.
And walked up to the register for. It was I rung his Corolla up, and it was around there. Yeah, it was like 89 to like 96 cents. I remember it being in this it was under $1.
Yeah, it was under $1.
And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, because you got to think at that point too, the equivalent of forget gas. I'm thinking in this mindset of candy and like stuff.
Yes.
That I can get in the corner store.
Sure.
Like, man, I can get with this $5. And I remember just giving like $5 or something, whatever it was, because that was good enough. Same thing for like a quarter tank, probably more.
Half a tank.
Half a tank.
You release getting them half a tank, if not more.
And that Corolla, $10 filled it up.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Dude, and I remember like giving people rides and just like, dude, I had to put $10 in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, no one's like, cough up
no
a couple dollars. Yeah, cough up a couple dollars.
Yeah.
I'm taking you guys to the mall. Like, dude, this $10 all I got for like the rest of the week for this car. $10.
Yeah.
Filled up my tank.
Meanwhile, I just put $50 in on Friday, and it was not even 3/4 of a tank. $50. So $5, 3/4, $50, not even 3/4 tank.
$10 filled up my tank, and right now I just got gas. It was $5.15 a gallon for premium.
Yeah, you gotta get premium for yours. Yep.
So 1 gallon was half that price.
Yeah.
Now is
That's insane.
it's crazy.
It's 25 years ago, almost.
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane. Yeah.
What is your recommendation to anyone looking to purchasing their first car?
Buy a Lamborghini.
In 2022.
Go ahead.
No, so right now, like we were just talking about, gas prices are up. So now you want to buy a car that's economical on fuel, which now we have a lot of electronic, like cars are electric.
Or hybrids and stuff.
Hybrid, which could be huge. So like, depends on your age, whatever. If you're a teenager, whatever, it's gas. It's almost like a car payment.
Yeah.
So like, I would configure like get a car that's practical to your situation of your age and what are you gonna just go to school and back, like and then same thing, just like make sure it's affordable to you. Like don't just go and get like this big F-250. Gas is through the roof. It's a big old truck. Do you need it? No. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're a kid that's like had that entrepreneurial mindset, like, oh, I want to start a landscaping company. Yeah, let me get a truck, and then but there's not that many kids that are like that now, anyway. But just make sure it's practical and just do your homework on it. Like, and also buy a car you think is gonna last, or how long you think you're gonna have this car for.
Yeah, basically that's it. Like, go over it. Like, I mean, of course, every parent wants their child to have a safe car, so make sure you go over the safety features. Make sure it's a reliable vehicle, and I mean,
you just got a car for you helped Bella out. What'd you do?
Yeah, we got her. We looked for safety features. Like, she wanted a Grand Cherokee. Me and my wife look at each other like, yeah, right. You ain't get no dang Grand Cherokee. We don't even have that. So we ended up with a Hyundai Elantra. Very reliable. 4-cylinder. The gas, we always told her, you take care of your own gas and you do that, and we feel comfortable her driving it because it's not such a big car. And it's not too small, so it's like a mid-sized car, so it's like perfect. But yeah, we went over the reviews on it before purchasing it, and we knew the safety features of it, and of course the warranty and stuff. So major things go wrong, we can send it into the shop and the warranty's covered with it. But yeah, I mean, my main thing is the safety.
Yeah, I mean, just to piggyback on that whole, topic is, before you go for, like, perfect example, like Bella, our niece, wanted an SUV, right? And so it's like, understand the utility of the vehicle. Like, the SUV has a significance of why you would need that versus, why would you want that?
Right.
Same thing with a truck. And then same thing with, vans, cars, whatever else, vehicle you're looking at. And then to Goose's point, like, it's nice if you can get an electric car, but what's the practicality of that in where you live? Sure. Is there a lot of places you can stop and charge, or is it like if you're in a city, it's more likely you have areas like that or whatever available to you? I'm not even 100% sure on that, but just understand the demographics or the geological landscape of where you're going to be driving, because if you have a gas hauler and you're going from college and you live in a desert town where there's, every so many miles there's a gas station, whereas compared to us, every corner there's a gas station. So it's not necessarily the issue. The issue is that's nice. Like, for example, I had a Ford F-150, and traveling in 2 hours a day made no sense to the vehicle, right? Sure. And on multiple levels, not only driving 2 hours a day, driving 2 hours a day for a desk job. It wasn't like I was driving, to Goose's point, 2 hours a job and I had a landscaping business or a construction business where I needed the truck. I didn't need the utility of it. For that, it's nice to have. But again, to go back, needs versus wants. I would say do your homework on that, gas, insurance. Just understand what you're getting yourself into, and just know that it's not permanent.
Yeah, right.
Like, on the other side, people just take forever to make a decision, and they end up never getting it what they want or settling. And that's like one of my biggest things. Is like, don't settle, man. If you know you want something, stack up a little bit more if you can. Obviously, you got to do what you got to do, but
that's another thing. So it's like most people. There's some people that buy cars like cash straight out, they buy them outright. But if you're gonna have a car payment, you're gonna pay a couple $100s a month, make sure you're doing that payment to something you really want, not just like, that's all that was in front of me, so I'm just gonna get it and just make a car payment because it's there.
Desperation.
And now you're paying something that you don't even enjoy. So it's like, it's really like Jim said, save. If that car isn't ready, I mean, depends on your situation, how bad you need a car or how fast you need it. But like, if you can save a couple more dollars or just hold off, like it's you want to enjoy like having a car. And then at the end of the day, like there's no offense to any kind of like a Honda or a Buick or like a Bentley. They're three different kind of cars. The interiors are nice, whatever. At the end of the day, a car's a car. Like once you're in it, you're over the luxury fad. Like it's all a fad. Like it's like, I want the best looking car. Once you get it, you have it. It's like just any other car. It just becomes
a normal thing.
Yes, it is. Yep. So it's just like
it goes back to, though, like to that point though. It goes back to the utility. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if I want to do X, Y, and Z, go off-roading and do whatever, I'm not going to get a Buick, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to get something that can handle the utility of what I'm going to use. I'm also not going to go start my own construction company and buy a Buick, because I'm going to need to rough it up, and it's going to have to just understand, like, just know what you're going to do with it, and to Goose's original point where he said get an F-250 and whatever. Sometimes you buy, that's where it becomes where it's like you just bought something you're probably never going to tap into its potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
gas
it's like
prices are through the roof. Your car payments through the roof. And now you have this big old truck for what?
Yeah. Right. Where are you going with it?
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, good luck.
Have fun, figure it out.
Yeah. We like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one by Dale Earnhardt. The winner ain't the one with the fastest car. It's the one who refuses to lose. The second one by Steven Furtick. Enjoy the journey because the destination is a mirage. Transportation talk in this episode. The crew covers topics that range from cars/trucks, motorcycles, gas prices, auto shows, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Steven Furtick and Dale Earnhardt. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.